Translate this, and I'll give you $1,000,000, the billionaire said, laughing. The executives erupted in laughter, but when the young girl opened her mouth, the laughter froze on their faces. The towering Hargrove Holdings Plaza rose over the city like a monument to power. Floors of glass and steel reflecting the clouds, built with the sweat of thousands of workers who would never set foot in its head offices. On the top floor, where the air seemed more exclusive and the carpets cost more than entire homes, a scene was unfolding that would change destinies forever. Zara Bennett's hands were icy cold, not from the air conditioning that kept the boardroom at a perfect temperature, but from the terror that coursed through every vein in her body. She stood in the middle of a room full of people who looked at her as if she were a stain on their polished Italian shoes. Her mother, Serena, had brought her that day because there was no one to look after her. It was a public holiday, and the options were to bring her to work or leave her alone in the small rented flat they shared. Serena had chosen what she believed was safer. How wrong she was. Chief Damian Hargrove's voice cut the silence like a rusty knife. The CEO of Hargrove International Holdings was a man who had built his empire on the backs of others. His suit cost what Serena earned in a year, his watch what she would earn in several more. But the most expensive thing he possessed was his disregard for anyone he deemed inferior. And to Chief Hargrove, almost everyone was inferior. "Chief Hargrove, I apologize." Serena stepped forward, her voice trembling. "My daughter had nowhere to stay today. She'll be quiet in the staff kitchen. She won't bother anyone, I promise." "The kitchen." Hargrove arched an eyebrow, looking Zara up and down with a barely concealed sneer of disgust. "Your daughter? You brought her to my company as if this were a daycare center." The executives around the table began to murmur. Attorney Nolan Kane, the corporate counsel and Hargrove's right-hand man, smirked with that self-satisfied expression only cowards display when someone more powerful humiliates the weak. "Sir, Serena began. "Silence!" Hargrove raised a hand. His eyes did not leave Zara. "Come closer, child." Zara looked at her mother. She saw the fear in Serena's eyes, the silent plea to obey without causing trouble. Serena had worked at that company for years. She cleaned the floors, others soiled, tidied the offices, others messed up. She endured humiliations others could never imagine, all to give her daughter a better life. With slow steps, Zara walked to the center of the room. The glass walls showcased the city below, small and insignificant. The boardroom table gleamed under the lights, so polished that Zara could see her own reflection. A young girl in a school uniform, a blue school bag hanging from one shoulder, completely out of place in that temple of corporate power. "What's your name?" Hargrove asked, leaning forward in his leather chair. "Zara, sir." "Zara," he repeated, savoring the name as if it were something bitter. "Tell me, Zara, what does your mother do here?" The question was a trap. Zara knew it. Any answer would be used as a weapon. "She works, sir," she replied in a low voice. "Works?" Hargrove let out a short laugh. "You call cleaning the toilets we use or picking up the waste we generate work?" Some executives laughed. Others looked away, uncomfortable, but without the courage to intervene. "It's honest work, sir," Zara said, and something in her voice made the laughter stop. Hargrove narrowed his eyes. He was not used to being answered back, least of all by the daughter of his cleaning staff. "Honest work." He stood up, his imposing height casting a shadow over Zara. "Your mother earns in a month what I spend on a single dinner, and you come here to lecture me about honesty." "Damian!" A female voice intervened from the other side of the table. It was Elena Vargas, the Nigerian-British investor who had come to negotiate a multi-million-dollar deal. "Perhaps we should continue with the meeting. The documents." "The documents can wait." Hargrove did not take his eyes off Zara. He had found new entertainment. "Tell me, studious girl, how clever are you? Do you get good grades in your community school?" Zara did not respond. She kept her gaze down as her mother had taught her. Don't cause trouble. Don't draw attention. Survive. "I asked you a question." Hargrove's voice hardened. "Yes, sir, I get good grades." "In what subjects?" "In all of them, sir." Another chuckle went around the room. Attorney Nolan Kane leaned forward, his eyes glinting with malice. "In all of them, even languages?" the attorney asked. "Yes, sir." "And what languages do you speak, little genius?" Hargrove crossed his arms, his smile widening. Zara hesitated. She knew anything she said would be mocked, but she also knew lying was worse. Her mother had taught her that, too. The truth, however painful, is always better than a lie. English, Yoruba, Igbo, French, and Arabic, sir." The silence that followed was absolute. And then Chief Damian Hargrove did something no one expected. He threw his head back and let out a laugh so boisterous it made the windows rattle. A laugh that contained all his contempt, all his disbelief, all his disdain for this child who dared to claim such an absurd thing. "5 languages," he exclaimed between laughs. "The cleaning lady's daughter speaks 5 languages." The executives joined the laughter. It was easier to laugh with a boss than to remain silent. It was safer to be an accomplice than to be neutral. Serena wanted to run to her daughter, but her feet were nailed to the floor. Tears threatened to fall, but she held them back. She could not show weakness. Not here. Not now. "Chief Hargrove," Elena Vargas spoke again, this time with a firmer tone. "I think this has been enough." But Hargrove was not finished. He had an idea that seemed brilliant in its cruelty. He walked to the table and picked up a bundle of documents. They were the contracts for the international negotiation to take place that afternoon. Documents in 5 different languages prepared by professional translators who charged fortunes for their work. "Very well, little polyglot." Hargrove approached Zara, waving the papers in front of her face. "I propose a deal." "Silence," he ordered without looking at Elena. His eyes were fixed on Zara like a predator observing its prey. "I'll give you $1 million if you translate this." The room was in commotion. $1 million to a child. Attorney Nolan Kane smiled widely. He understood perfectly what his boss was doing. It was a perfect humiliation. The child would not be able to translate anything. She would be ridiculed, and her mother would learn the lesson of never again bringing problems to the office. "Here are documents in English, French, German, Arabic, and Japanese," Hargrove continued. "If you can read and translate them correctly, I'll give you the money. $1 million right now in front of everyone." "That's unfair." Serena finally found her voice. "She's just a child." "A child who claims to speak 5 languages." Hargrove did not even look at her. "Isn't that right, Zara? Or were you lying?" Zara looked up for the first time since she had entered the room. Her eyes met Hargrove's. In them, there was no fear, no shame. There was something the CEO had not seen in a long time. There was fire. "I wasn't lying, sir," Zara said, her voice clear and firm. "But you mentioned Japanese. I said I spoke Arabic, not Japanese." Hargrove's smile faltered for a second. "Then I suppose you lose by default. What a pity." "But I can try anyway." Zara extended her hand. "Give me the documents." A murmur ran through the room. No one expected that. Everyone expected tears, apologies, complete humiliation. Not a child extending her hand with the same authority as an executive closing a deal. Hargrove hesitated for the first time in the conversation. He seemed unsure how to proceed, but his pride was greater than his prudence. "As you wish." He handed her the documents with a contemptuous smile. "You have 5 minutes." Zara took the papers. Her hands no longer trembled. Something had changed in her, or perhaps something that had always been there had finally awakened. She looked at the first document. It was in English. It was an investment contract with complex clauses about participation percentages and financial guarantees. She began to read aloud. At first, no one paid real attention. They expected her to stammer, to get confused, to prove the farce they all believed it to be. But then the words began to flow. Zara not only read, she translated simultaneously into Yoruba, explaining the meaning of each clause with a precision that made Elena Vargas lean forward in her seat. "Wait," the Nigerian-British investor interrupted. "What did you say about the termination clause, Zara?" Zara repeated the translation, adding legal context that even the lawyers present had not considered. The second document was in French. Zara took it and, looking directly at Elena, began to read in perfect Parisian French. Elena paled. "Her pronunciation," she murmured in English, "is impeccable." Zara smiled slightly and continued with the translation into Igbo. The third document was in German. It was a technical report on international bank transfers. Zara read it with the same fluency, her accent so perfect that Hans Keller, the German banker present as a consultant, took off his glasses to look at her better. "Where did you learn German?" he asked in his language. "My neighbor was German, sir," Zara replied, also in German. "She taught me since I was very little. She said words are bridges between worlds." The fourth document was in Arabic. It was a letter of intent from Omar Khalil, the businessman who would negotiate via video conference that afternoon. Zara took the paper and began to read the Arabic characters from right to left, her voice adopting the particular cadence of that ancient language. Omar Khalil, who was connected by video conference to observe the preliminary meeting, rose from his seat in his office thousands of miles away. "Who is this child?" he asked in Arabic. "The cleaning lady's daughter," Zara replied in the same language without taking her eyes off the document. "And your letter is very well written, Mr. Khalil, especially the paragraph about the importance of trust in business." The room was in complete silence. Chief Damian Hargrove had stopped smiling. His face had transformed into a mask of disbelief that slowly tinged with something more dangerous: humiliation. Only one document remained, the one in Japanese, the language Zara had admitted she did not know. Hargrove saw his opportunity. "The last one," he said, regaining some of his composure. "Japanese? You said you don't speak it. I suppose that's the end of your little show." Zara looked at the document. The Japanese characters looked back at her like an impossible riddle. She felt the weight of all eyes on her. She felt her mother's hope. She felt Hargrove's contempt. She felt the astonishment of the international investors. And then she did something no one expected. She walked to where Yuki Sato, the Japanese executive, was sitting. She bowed respectfully, as she had seen in educational videos, and spoke. "Tanaka-san, I don't speak Japanese, but I have studied your country's culture for years. I know that in Japan, admitting what you don't know is as important as demonstrating what you do know. I humbly ask you to teach me to read this document, not today, but someday." The silence that followed was different from all the previous ones. Yuki Sato stood up slowly, her eyes shining with something that might have been admiration or perhaps something deeper. "In Japan," she said in English with a soft accent, "we have a word, gambaru. It means to strive to the utmost. Never give up. Give everything you have, even if the result is uncertain." She looked at Hargrove with an expression that made the CEO take a step back. "This child has just shown more gambaru than any executive I have met in 20 years of business." Elena Vargas also stood up. "I agree completely. What I have just witnessed is extraordinary." Hans Keller nodded. "I've never seen anything like it." Omar Khalil from the screen spoke in English with a grave voice. "Chief Hargrove, you promised $1 million. The child translated 4 out of 5 documents perfectly. I would say she far exceeded expectations." Hargrove looked around. The allies he expected to have had turned against him. The humiliation he had planned for a child now fell upon his own shoulders. "This is ridiculous." His voice trembled with contained fury. "It was a joke. Obviously, I'm not going to give $1 million to a brat." "A joke?" Elena repeated slowly. "Humiliating a child in front of international investors seems funny to you, Chief Hargrove?" "This is my company." Hargrove slammed the table. "I decide what's funny and what's not." Attorney Nolan Kane tried to intervene. "Perhaps we should take a break." "No one asked for your opinion," Hargrove yelled at his own lawyer. Zara remained standing in the center of the room, holding the documents against her chest. She looked at her mother, who was crying silently near the door, tears of pride mixed with fear for what would come next, because both knew the truth. Hargrove would not forgive this humiliation. No matter what the investors thought, no matter what was right or just, vengeance would come. It was only a matter of time. But at that moment, as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows and bathed the room in golden light, Zara Bennett had achieved something no one thought possible. She had made a giant tremble, and that, although she did not know it yet, was only the beginning, because somewhere in that tower of glass and steel, someone else had been watching, someone who knew secrets that would change everything, and that someone had just found exactly what they had been looking for. The consequences came faster than Serena had feared. That same night, as mother and daughter walked to their small flat on the outskirts of the city, Serena's phone rang. The number was from the company. Her heart stopped before she answered. "Mrs. Bennett." The voice on the other end was cold. "Professional Human Resources speaking. You are informed that your services will no longer be required at Hargrove International Holdings. You may come tomorrow to collect your severance package." The call cut off before Serena could respond. Zara watched as her mother's face crumbled, as tears began to fall, as her shoulders slumped under an invisible but crushing weight. "Mama." Zara reached out a hand. "Don't say anything," Serena whispered. "Please, not now." They walked the rest of the way in silence, a silence that weighed more than any words. Zara felt the knot in her throat growing with each step. She had caused this. Her moment of bravery had destroyed her family's only source of income. The flat greeted them with his usual darkness. Serena did not turn on the lights. She sat in the only chair at the dining table and dropped her head into her hands. Years, she murmured. Years working there, enduring everything. And in one day, it's all over. Mama, I didn't mean to. I know you didn't. Serena raised her voice for the first time. Her eyes gleamed with tears and something else, something Zara had never seen in her despair. But now we have nothing. Zara, do you understand? Nothing. The rent is due soon. I have no savings. I have no other job waiting for me. What are we going to do? Zara had no answer. She stood in the middle of the small room, feeling every word from her mother stab into her chest like ice needles. I should have kept quiet, she finally said. I should have let him mock me, and that would have been it. Serena took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. No, my child, what you did was brave. It was incredible. But in this world, the brave don't always win. Sometimes the powerful simply crush those who dare to challenge them. That's not fair. No, it's not. The silence returned, heavier than before. Zara went to her mother and hugged her. Serena sobbed against her daughter's shoulder, letting out all the fear and frustration she had held back for hours, for years if she was honest. We'll find a solution, Zara whispered. I don't know how, but we will. I promise you. Serena did not respond, just continued to cry. The following days were the most difficult Zara could remember. Serena left every morning before dawn, looking for work anywhere that would take her. Restaurants, shops, cleaning offices, but every door closed with the same answer. No vacancies. What Serena did not know was that Chief Damian Hargrove had made calls. He had used his influence to ensure that no company in the city would hire the woman who had raised the child who humiliated him. It was his form of revenge. Silent, effective, merciless. Zara continued to attend school, but her mind was elsewhere. She looked out the window during classes, thinking of her mother walking under the sun, knocking on doors that never opened. Zara Bennett, are you paying attention? The teacher's voice pulled her from her thoughts. All eyes in the class were on her. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. Then, can you tell me the answer to the question I just asked? Zara had no idea what the question was, but her mind worked fast. She looked at the blackboard, saw the numbers of the mathematical equation, and in seconds calculated the answer. 42, ma'am. The teacher blinked in surprise. Correct, but try to be more present in class, Miss Bennett. Zara nodded, but her mind had already drifted again. She needed to find a way to help her mother. She needed to fix what she had caused. Soon after the dismissal, the situation was critical. The refrigerator was almost empty, bills piled up unpaid, and Serena had started to cough, a deep, worrisome sound that worsened each night. It's just a cold, she would say when Zara asked. Don't worry. But Zara did worry. She could see her mother weakening, her dark circles growing, how each day that passed without work robbed her of a little more hope. It was then that Zara made a decision. She waited until her mother fell asleep and turned on their old computer. The internet connection was slow, but it worked. She began to search for online translation jobs, services where people paid for document translations. She had no certificates, no credentials, nothing but her languages and her determination. She created an account with a fake name. She could not use her own. She was underage and the rules did not allow her to work. But rules did not feed her mother. Rules did not pay the rent. Her first job was small, translating a restaurant menu from English to French. They paid little, but Zara did it with the same dedication she had shown in Hargrove's boardroom. When the client left a positive review, something changed. Other clients began to contact her, legal documents, business letters, important emails. Each job was more complex than the last, but Zara did not stop. She worked until dawn when her mother slept. She woke up early to go to school. She slept barely a few hours, but every coin she earned went directly into an account she had managed to open with borrowed documents from an older neighbor who owed her mother favors. Weeks passed. Serena noticed changes she could not explain. The refrigerator had food. Bills appeared paid. But when she asked, Zara just said she had found coins on the street or that a neighbor had given them groceries. Zara, Serena confronted her one night. I need you to tell me the truth. Where is this money coming from? Zara hesitated. She hated lying to her mother, but she also knew that if she told her the truth, Serena would forbid her to continue. And then, what would they eat? I'm doing small jobs, she finally said, helping classmates with assignments. Nothing bad, Mama. I promise. Serena looked at her for a long moment. Her mother's eyes knew there was more, but they also knew her daughter was trying to help in the only way she knew how. "Promise me you're not doing anything dangerous." "I promise you." It was a half promise. Working to exhaustion was dangerous. Falsifying her age to work was illegal. But Zara convinced herself it was necessary, that the end justified the means. How wrong she was. The call came soon after the dismissal. Zara was in class when the headmistress entered the room with a grave expression. "Zara Bennett, I need you to come with me." Murmurs filled the classroom as Zara stood up. She walked behind the headmistress down corridors that suddenly seemed longer, more menacing. In the headmistress's office, two people waited, a man and a woman, both with professional expressions that revealed nothing. "Zara, these are from the Ministry of Youth and Social Development," the headmistress explained. "They have some questions for you." "No." Zara's heart sank. "Miss Bennett," the man spoke in a neutral voice, "we have received an anonymous report about your family situation. It alleges that you are working illegally and that your mother has no employment or means to support you." "That's not," Zara began. "We also received documentation suggesting you have been using false identities to operate on online work platforms," the woman added. "Is that true?" Zara felt the world closing in around her. Someone had reported her, someone who knew exactly what she was doing. It had to be Hargrove. His revenge had not ended with her mother's dismissal. He had waited, he had watched, and now he was attacking where it hurt most. "We need to speak with your mother," the man continued, "and depending on what we find, we may need to consider alternative custody options." "Alternative custody?" Zara felt the air leave her lungs. "You want to take me away from my mama?" "No one wants that," the woman said, but her voice did not sound convincing. "We just want to ensure you are in a safe environment." "My mother is the safest person in the world." Zara felt tears threatening to fall, but she held them back with all her willpower. "She has sacrificed everything for me. Everything. And if I made mistakes, it was to help her, not because she forced me." "We understand it's a difficult situation," the man said, "but we have procedures to follow." Serena arrived at the school 30 minutes later. When she entered the office and saw the officials, her face paled. When she heard the accusations, her eyes filled with tears. When she understood they could take her daughter away, something in her broke. "Please," she pleaded in a broken voice. "My daughter was only trying to help me. It's my fault. All my fault. Punish me, not her, Mrs. Bennett." "We are not here to punish anyone," the woman said. "We are here to assess the situation." "The situation is that I lost my job unfairly." Serena raised her voice for the first time. "I was fired because my daughter proved to be more intelligent than the most powerful man in that company. And since then, that man has made sure to destroy our lives. He is the one who should be investigated, not us." "Madam, we understand you're upset." "You understand nothing." Serena was sobbing now. "You don't understand what it's like to walk the streets looking for work while your daughter goes hungry. You don't understand what it's like to watch your child stay awake until dawn trying to save us. You understand nothing." Zara went to her mother and hugged her. Both were crying now, clinging to each other as if the world was trying to separate them. And in a way, it was. "We will need to visit your home," the man said finally, "and we want to interview Zara separately. It's standard procedure." "You are not separating me from my daughter," Serena said with a fierce determination that cut through her tears. "No one is talking about separation yet." The woman tried to calm the situation. "Yet," Serena repeated the word as if it were poison. "You hear that, Zara? Yet? As if it's inevitable. As if they've already decided." "Mama," Zara whispered, "everything will be fine. We'll show them we're a family, that we take care of each other. They'll see the truth." "The truth," Serena murmured bitterly. "The truth is that the poor have no truth. We only have the story the rich decide to tell about us." The separate interview was the longest hour of Zara's life. They asked her questions about her mother, about her home, about her meals, about her dreams, about her fears. Every answer was analyzed, noted, judged. "Has your mother ever hurt you?" "Never. My mother is the gentlest person there is." "Do you feel safe at home?" "I feel safe because I'm with her." "Why did you start working online?" Zara hesitated before answering. She knew the truth could make things worse, but she also knew lying had brought her here. "Because my mother got sick from looking for work she couldn't find. Because we had nothing to eat. Because I was the only one who could do something, and languages are all I have." "Did you know it was illegal?" "I knew it was necessary." The official looked at her for a long moment. There was something in her eyes Zara could not decipher. Compassion, judgment, both. "Zara, do you know who made the anonymous report about your family?" "I think so." "Who?" "Chief Damian Hargrove, the man who fired my mother. The man who promised to give me $1 million if I translated documents and then mocked me when I did." The official took note. "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." When they were finally allowed to reunite, mother and daughter hugged as if they had not seen each other in years. "They're not going to separate us," Zara whispered into her mother's ear. "I won't allow it, my brave child." Serena kissed her forehead. "My little warrior." But as they left the school, neither of them noticed the vehicle parked across the street, nor the man watching them with a satisfied smile. Attorney Nolan Kane lowered his window and dialed a number on his phone. "Chief Hargrove, everything went as planned. The authorities are already involved. It's only a matter of time before the child ends up in the custody system." Hargrove's voice sounded pleased on the other end of the line. "Excellent. No one humiliates me and gets away with it. Absolutely no one." "What about the mother?" "She's already destroyed, jobless, penniless, and soon without her daughter. It's enough punishment for now. And if anyone discovers our involvement," Hargrove laughed softly, "who's going to believe a cleaning lady about the actions of one of the most powerful men in the country? No one. That's the privilege of power, Nolan. We can do whatever we want, and the world simply looks the other way." The call disconnected. Nolan started the engine and drove away, leaving behind a mother and daughter who walked arm in arm towards an uncertain future. But what none of them knew was that someone else had been listening to that conversation, someone who had installed a listening device on Nolan's phone months ago, waiting for exactly this moment. Someone who knew all of Chief Damian Hargrove's secrets, and that someone had just decided it was time to act. Because in the shadows of the Hargrove Holdings Plaza, a storm was about to break, and when it came, nothing would ever be the same. Elder Elias Hargrove had lived many years learning a fundamental truth. Real power is not measured in shouts, but in silences. Sitting in his private office in an unmarked building in downtown Lagos, he listened for the third time to the recording of the conversation between attorney Nolan Kane and Chief Damian Hargrove. Every word confirmed what he had suspected for years. His nephew had become a monster. Because, yes, Chief Damian Hargrove was his nephew, the son of his younger sister, whom Elias had raised as his own. When she died of an illness the doctors never knew how to explain, he had given him education, opportunities, contacts. He had taught him everything about business, and Damian had used every lesson to build an empire of cruelty. Elder Hargrove, the voice of his assistant, a woman named Priya Singh, interrupted his thoughts. "The investigations you requested are complete." Priya placed a thick folder on the desk. She was a middle-aged woman, discreet, efficient. She had worked for Elias for decades and knew secrets that could bring down governments. "What did you find about the child?" Elias asked without looking up. "Zara Bennett, outstanding student. Perfect grades at all levels, speaks 5 languages with proven fluency. Her mother, Serena Bennett, worked for years at Hargrove International Holdings until her unfair dismissal recently. And the anonymous report? We traced the origin." Priya continued. "It was made from a disposable phone, but the cell towers locate the call within the Hargrove Holdings Plaza, specifically on the legal department floor." "Nolan," Elias murmured the name as if it were poison. "There's more," Priya went on. "The mother is ill. It started as a simple cough, but it has worsened. Our contacts at the community hospital indicate she has visited the free clinic several times in recent weeks. Doctors suspect severe bronchitis, possibly progressing to pneumonia. She needs medication she cannot afford." Elias closed his eyes. The image of Serena walking in the rain, looking for work, falling ill while her daughter worked until dawn to keep them afloat, brought a pang of guilt. He had created the monster destroying these lives. What about the case with the Ministry of Youth and Social Development? Hearing scheduled soon. If the assessment determines the home is inadequate, Zara will be removed from her mother's custody and placed in the system. And the evaluators? That's where it gets interesting. Priya pulled out another document. One of the assigned officials, Mr. Jamal Kane, has financial connections to subsidiary companies of Hargrove Holdings. He receives monthly payments cataloged as consulting, but there is no evidence of any service rendered, a disguised bribe. Elias nodded slowly. Damian bought the evaluator. That appears to be the case. The verdict is probably already decided. Elias rose from his chair and walked to the window. From there, he could see the Hargrove Holdings Plaza gleaming in the distance, a monument to the ego of a man without conscience. For years, Elias had watched from the shadows. He had founded Hargrove International Holdings decades ago, but had retired when his health began to fail, leaving everything in the hands of his nephew. It had been his biggest mistake. Damian had transformed the company, made it bigger, richer, more powerful, but he had also turned it into something corrupt. Bribes to officials, destruction of competitors, exploitation of workers, and now persecution of a mother and daughter for the simple offense of having wounded his pride. "Priya," Elias spoke without turning, "I need you to do something for me. Whatever you command. I want to meet that child, Zara Bennett." Zara was walking home from school when she noticed someone following her. It was not obvious. Whoever it was knew how to keep their distance, but Zara had developed keen instincts in recent weeks. Living under constant threat does that to people. She quickened her pace. The follower also quickened. Her heart began to beat faster. It was someone sent by Hargrove, another move in his cruel game. She thought of running, but her legs were trembling too much. "Zara Bennett," a female voice called her. She turned sharply. A middle-aged woman approached with her hands visible, showing she posed no threat. "Who are you?" Zara took a step back. "My name is Priya Singh. I don't come to harm you. I come to offer you help." "Help?" Zara laughed bitterly. "The last person who offered help ended up reporting us to the authorities. I understand your distrust, but there's someone who wants to meet you. Someone who knows what Chief Damian Hargrove has done to you and your mother. Someone who can truly help you." "Who?" "His name is Elder Elias Hargrove. He was the original owner of Hargrove International Holdings." Zara blinked. "The original owner, but Hargrove is his nephew. Elder Hargrove founded the company decades ago and handed it over when he retired, but he never imagined what Damian would turn it into. And why would he want to help us?" Priya looked at her with an expression that mixed sadness and determination. "Because he has spent years observing his nephew's cruelties without being able to do anything. Because he saw what Damian did to you in that boardroom and felt ashamed to share blood with that man. And because he believes that you, Zara, have something he lost a long time ago." "What thing?" "The courage to face the powerful." The meeting took place that same afternoon in a small cafe far from the city center. Zara had insisted on a public place, and Elias had accepted without objection. When she saw him enter, Zara was surprised. She expected someone imposing, intimidating. Instead, she found an elderly man with a slow gait, tired but kind eyes, and a smile that seemed genuine. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Elias sat across from her with slow movements. "I know you have no reason to trust anyone connected to Hargrove." "I don't," Zara confirmed, "but I don't have many options either." "Direct, I like that." Elias ordered 2 hot chocolates from the waiter before continuing. "Do you know who I am?" "Your assistant explained it to me. You founded the company. Hargrove is your nephew. More than that, I raised him. When my sister died, Damian was barely a child. I welcomed him into my home, educated him, gave him everything I had. I thought I was raising a good man." "You were gravely mistaken. Power reveals who we truly are. And Damian revealed something I didn't want to see. Cruelty, boundless ambition, contempt for anyone he considers inferior." "Why didn't you do anything before?" The question hit Elias like a slap. It was the same question he asked himself every night. "Cowardice," he admitted. "Shame, denial. I convinced myself they were rumors, exaggerations, that the child I had raised couldn't be so bad. But when I saw you in that boardroom, when I saw how my nephew enjoyed humiliating a child in front of dozens of people, I knew I could no longer look the other way. You were there. I have access to all the company's security cameras. I never completely relinquished control. It was my last safeguard, although I never thought I would have to use it." Zara processed the information. "So, you saw everything." "I saw how you translated those documents with a skill that professionals would take years to develop. I saw how you faced a man who has destroyed careers with a snap of his fingers. I saw how when the Japanese document came, you had the wisdom to admit what you didn't know and the humility to ask to be taught." His eyes moistened slightly. "I saw an extraordinary child being treated like trash by a man who doesn't deserve to clean her shoes." The hot chocolate arrived. Zara wrapped her hands around the cup, absorbing the warmth. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked. I want to help you and your mother. How? Elias pulled an envelope from his jacket. Here is enough money to pay for your mother's medical treatment. I know she's sick. I know she needs medication you cannot afford. Zara looked at the envelope but did not touch it. And in return? Nothing. No one gives something for nothing. Elias smiled with genuine admiration. You're right. There's always a motive. Mine is redemption. I've spent years allowing my nephew to destroy lives while I counted my money in silence. Helping you won't erase my sins, but perhaps it can prevent him from committing more. There's something else. Zara looked him directly in the eyes. You want something more than to feel better about yourself. Elias remained silent for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. I want to stop Damian, not just for what he did to you, but for everything he has done for years. The bribes, the manipulations, the lives he has ruined, but I can't do it alone. I need someone I can trust, someone who is priceless, someone Damian would never see coming. Me? Zara almost laughed. I'm a child. I have no power. I have no money. I have nothing. You have something more valuable than all that. You have truth, your story, your talent, your courage. The world is already starting to hear about you. The investors who were at that meeting haven't stopped talking about the child who humiliated Hargrove in his own boardroom. Chief Elena Vargas, the Nigerian-British investor, canceled all her negotiations with Hargrove Holdings. Omar Khalil did the same. Hans Keller is reconsidering his participation, and Yuki Sato published an article in a Japanese business magazine about the importance of recognizing talent, regardless of its origin. Zara felt something strange in her chest. Hope. Pride. She wasn't sure. And what do you want me to do for now? Nothing. I just want you to accept my help, to allow me to pay for your mother's treatment, to let me protect you from what's coming. What's coming? Elias's expression darkened. The hearing with the Ministry of Youth and Social Development. Damian bought one of the evaluators. The outcome is predetermined. They're going to take you from your mother. Zara's world stopped. How do you know that? Because I have eyes everywhere. And because I know my nephew, he won't rest until he completely destroys you. Tears threatened to fall, but Zara held them back. She would not cry. Not here. Not now. Can you stop him? I can try, but I need time and I need you to trust me. Zara looked at the envelope on the table. She thought of her mother coughing every night, getting worse every day. She thought of the hearing approaching like an inevitable storm. She thought of all the doors that had closed, all the hopes that had died. And she thought of something her mother always told her. When you have nothing to lose, any outstretched hand is a bridge. She took the envelope. Okay, she said, I'll trust you, but if you betray me, if you hurt my mother in any way, I will find a way to destroy you. I don't know how, but I will. Elias looked at her with a mix of astonishment and respect. I know, and that's exactly why I believe in you. That night, when Zara arrived home, she found her mother sitting in the dark crying. Mama, she ran to her. What happened? Serena held up a crumpled paper. It was an official letter from the Ministry of Youth and Social Development. They had moved up the hearing. It's soon. Her voice was barely a whisper. They say they have enough evidence to determine our home is inadequate. Zara felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Elias had said he needed time, but time had run out. Mama, listen to me. She took her mother's hands in hers. I met someone today, someone who wants to help us, someone who has the power to face Hargrove. Who? The man who founded his company, his own uncle. Serena looked at her with disbelief. Hargrove's uncle, and you believe him? I don't know if I believe him, but we have to try. It's our only chance. Serena's cough interrupted the conversation. It was deep, painful, and this time it was accompanied by something that made Zara's heart stop. Blood on the handkerchief her mother used to cover her mouth. Blood stains. Mama, it's nothing. Serena tried to hide the handkerchief. It's just... Don't lie to me, Zara cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. How long has this been happening? Serena did not answer. She did not need to. Her eyes said it all. We're going to the hospital now. We can't afford it. Zara pulled out the envelope Elias had given her. She opened it. Inside was more money than they had seen in years. Now we can. In the emergency room of the Central Hospital, while doctors examined Serena, Zara made a call. Elder Hargrove, it's Zara. My mother is very ill and they moved up the hearing. It's soon. Elias's voice sounded tense on the other end. They're speeding everything up. Damian must suspect something. What do we do? There was a long pause. Then Elias spoke with renewed determination. Get ready, Zara, because we're going to do something my nephew will never expect. What? We're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, in front of the whole world. The waiting room of the central hospital smelled of disinfectant and desperation. Zara had spent the entire night sitting on a plastic chair, watching the clock tick second by second, unable to sleep, unable to think of anything but her mother behind those white doors. Doctors had confirmed the worst: severe pneumonia. Serena needed immediate hospitalization, expensive medication, and above all, absolute rest. Weeks of walking in the rain looking for work, sleepless nights worrying about her daughter, and the constant stress of living under threat had destroyed her immune system. She's strong. Dr. Elena Reyes, a woman with compassionate eyes who seemed genuinely concerned, had said, but she needs to stay here for some time. If the infection reaches her lungs completely, we could be talking about something much more serious. The hearing was approaching. Zara felt like the universe was conspiring against them. Every time they found a small glimmer of hope, a new darkness appeared to extinguish it. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from Priya Singh. Elder Hargrove needs to see you. It's urgent. Sending address. Zara looked towards the room where her mother slept, connected to machines that monitored every heartbeat. She did not want to leave her alone, but she also could not do nothing while her world fell apart. She asked a nurse to keep an eye on her mother and left the hospital. The address led her to an old building in a part of the city Zara did not know. There were no signs, no indications, just a dark wooden door that opened before she could knock. Priya was waiting inside. "Follow me," she said without further explanation. They climbed narrow stairs until they reached an office that seemed straight out of another era. Books covered the walls from floor to ceiling. Ancient maps hung in gilded frames, and in the center, sitting behind a massive oak desk, Elder Elias Hargrove reviewed documents with a grave expression. But he was not alone. Zara stopped short when she recognized the other people in the room. Elena Vargas, the Nigerian-British investor, was sitting in a leather armchair, her legs elegantly crossed. Omar Khalil, the Arab businessman, stood by the window, his expression serious but not hostile. And Yuki Sato, the Japanese executive, occupied a chair near the desk, her hands resting on a briefcase. "What's going on?" Zara asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Sit down, Zara." Elias pointed to an empty chair. "There's much to explain in little time." Zara obeyed, though every muscle in her body screamed at her to run. Elena was the first to speak. Her English carried a refined accent. "After what we witnessed in that boardroom, none of us could forget you. A child confronting a man like Hargrove, demonstrating skills that professionals would take decades to develop. It was extraordinary, but more than that, it was revealing." Omar Khalil continued, his deep voice resonating in the room. "Hargrove showed his true nature that day, and that made us investigate his businesses more deeply." "Investigate?" Zara looked at Elias for an explanation. "International investors have resources that I don't have," Elias explained. "When I contacted them recently, they had already begun their own investigations into Hargrove Holdings. What they found is devastating." Yuki Sato opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Falsified documents, manipulated contracts, bribes to officials in several countries, labor exploitation in subsidiary factories, and something worse. She handed the folder to Zara. "Your mother was not the first employee Hargrove destroyed for personal reasons. There's a pattern. Dozens of people over the years, workers who contradicted him, who refused to participate in his schemes, who simply rubbed him the wrong way, all ended up the same. Fired, defamed, blocked from getting employment anywhere." Zara leafed through the documents. Names, dates, testimonies, stories of destroyed families, ruined careers, shattered lives. Her mother was just the most recent victim of a monster who had operated with impunity for years. "Why did no one do anything before?" she asked in a broken voice. "Because power protects power," Elena responded bitterly. "Hargrove has connections in government, in the media, in the judicial system. Anyone who tried to expose him was silenced before they could speak. But now there are many of us, and we have something Hargrove didn't expect," Omar added. "What?" "Your story has gone viral, Zara." Elias leaned forward. "The video from the boardroom was leaked to the internet recently. The whole world is talking about you. You're trending in many countries. Journalists from all over the planet want to interview you, and most importantly, they are investigating Hargrove. Zara could not process what she was seeing. Her moment of humiliation had turned into something completely different. People were not mocking her. They admired her, defended her, demanded justice. The comments. Yuki pointed to the screen where thousands of messages appeared. They're asking Hargrove to keep his promise. The $1 million. People say you deserve it. I don't want his money, Zara said firmly. I just want him to leave my family alone. And that's exactly what we're going to achieve. Elias stood up. But we need your help. My help for what? For the press conference we've organized for soon. The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Elias explained the plan. Soon, hours before the hearing with the Ministry of Youth and Social Development, they would hold an international press conference. The investors would present the evidence of Hargrove's corporate crimes. Elias would reveal his identity as the company's founder and publicly denounce his nephew's actions. And Zara would tell her story, not just what happened in the boardroom, everything. Her mother's unfair dismissal, the campaign to prevent her from getting work, the anonymous report, the bribed evaluator, everything. And you think it will work? Zara asked skeptically. Hargrove has power. He has lawyers. He has connections. But he doesn't have something we do have, Omar responded with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Documented truth, and millions of witnesses who are already on your side. Elena approached Zara and took her hands. I know you're scared. Anyone would be. But what you did in that boardroom proved you have more courage than men who have led nations. You're not alone in this. Yuki nodded. In Japan, we say Nanakorobi Yaoki. It means fall 7 times, rise 8. You have already risen more times than I can count. One more time won't defeat you. Zara looked at each person present. An old man seeking redemption, a Nigerian British investor who had risked millions for principles, an Arab businessman who believed in justice, a Japanese executive who valued humility over arrogance, and herself, a child who just wanted to protect her mother. Okay, she said finally, I'll do it. That night, Zara returned to the hospital. Her mother was awake, though weak. Where were you? Serena asked in a hoarse voice. Zara sat beside her bed and told her everything. The viral video, the investors, the plan for the press conference, the approaching hearing. When she finished, Serena was crying silently. My brave child, she whispered. When did you stop being my little girl and become a warrior? I never stopped being your little girl, Mama, Zara said. I just learned to fight for what I love. I'm scared, Serena admitted. I'm scared too. Zara took her mother's hand. But I'm more scared of doing nothing and losing you, of us being separated, of him winning. And if it doesn't work, then at least the world will know the truth, and that's something no one can take from us. Serena closed her eyes. Your grandmother used to say that words have power, that whoever masters words masters the world. My grandmother, I never told you much about her. She died when I was young, but she was a translator just like you. She spoke several languages. She worked for embassies, for companies, for governments. And she always said that her greatest gift wasn't languages, but the ability to make different people understand each other. Zara felt tears forming in her eyes. Why did you never tell me? Because when she died, I lost the connection to that world. I became what the world expected of me. Someone invisible who cleans up what others mess up. But you, Zara, you inherited her fire, and tomorrow you're going to do exactly what she always dreamed of. What? You are going to use words to change the world. The morning of the press conference dawned gray and cold. Zara had barely slept. She had spent hours going over what she would say, how she would say it, anticipating questions they might ask her. I saw her, but nothing had prepared her for what she found. When she arrived in the hall where the event would be held, hundreds of journalists filled the space. Television cameras from all over the world pointed towards a small stage where a podium with microphones had been placed. Outside, thousands of people had gathered, many with signs that read, Justice for Zara, and The World is Watching. The world is watching, Elias told her as they walked towards the stage. Are you ready? No, Zara admitted, but I'm going to do it anyway. The conference began with Elias introducing himself, revealing his identity as the founder of Hargrove Holdings and publicly denouncing his nephew's actions. The journalists exploded with questions, but Elias remained calm, presenting document after document as evidence. Then came the investors. Elena spoke about the financial irregularities. Omar revealed the international bribes. Yuki presented testimonies from former employees who had suffered the same fate as Serena. And finally, it was Zara's turn. She walked to the podium with trembling legs, but a voice that refused to break. She looked at the cameras, imagined the millions of eyes watching her from all over the world, and began to speak. "My name is Zara Bennett. My mother is a cleaning lady, and recently a powerful man promised to give me $1 million if I could translate documents in 5 languages. She paused. The silence in the room was absolute. I translated 4 out of 5 perfectly. The 5th was Japanese, a language I don't know. But instead of lying, I admitted my limitation and asked to learn. Do you know what that man did? He laughed, said it was a joke, and then fired my mother for taking me to work that day." The cameras captured every word, every expression, every tear Zara refused to let fall. But that was not enough for him. He made sure no company in the city would hire my mother. He made an anonymous report to have me taken from her custody. He bribed officials to ensure we lost everything. She held up a folder containing copies of the evidence. Here is the proof. Documents, recordings, testimonies, everything you need to see who Chief Damian Hargrove truly is. She looked directly into the main camera. "Chief Hargrove, if you are watching this, I want you to know something. I am not afraid of you. My mother taught me that dignity cannot be bought or sold. And my grandmother, whom I never knew, but whose fire runs through my veins, taught me that words can change the world." Her voice grew stronger with each sentence. "You tried to destroy us, but all you accomplished was to awaken something that cannot be put back to sleep, because now the world knows who you are, and the world is watching." The silence that followed Zara's words lasted barely seconds. Then chaos. Journalists rose from their seats, shouting questions. Camera flashes exploded like fireworks. The murmur of the crowd outside turned into a roar that penetrated the building's walls, but Zara heard none of it. Her eyes were fixed on a side screen that showed the live broadcast. The viewer numbers climbed every second. People from all over the world were witnessing this moment. Elias approached the podium and took control. "We will now take questions in an orderly manner. Please raise your hand." Hands shot up like a forest of desperate fingers. "You in the front row." Elias pointed to a red-haired journalist with a credential from an international network. "Thank you. I am Victoria Campos from Global News. Elder Hargrove, you claim to be the founder of Hargrove Holdings and Chief Damian Hargrove's uncle. Do you have proof of this relationship?" Elias nodded. "I have birth certificates, informal adoption documents, bank records showing the transfers I made for his education, and family photographs spanning decades. Everything will be handed over to the relevant authorities." Another hand went up, a bald man with a British accent. "Jonathan Pierce, Financial Times. For the investors present, are you willing to formally testify against Hargrove Holdings, and what implications would this have for your own businesses?" Elena Vargas approached the microphone. "We are willing to testify. As for the implications, we will lose money, a lot of money, but there are things more important than profits. Integrity is one of them." Omar Khalil added, "In my culture, honor is worth more than gold. What we witnessed in that boardroom was the dishonor of a man who believes money protects him from everything. He was wrong." Questions continued for almost an hour about the documents, about the testimonies, about Hargrove's pattern of conduct. Each answer was another stone in the wall being built around the CEO's empire. Finally, a young journalist raised her hand timidly. "This question is for Zara. How did you learn so many languages at such a young age?" Zara looked at the journalist. It was the first question addressed specifically to her since her initial statement. "My mother worked all day," she began. "When I was little, I spent a lot of time alone. The neighbors in our building came from different countries. Mrs. Ingrid from Germany taught me her language while she looked after me. Mr. Ahmed from Syria told me stories in Arabic while his wife cooked for us. Madame Colette, an elderly Frenchwoman who lived on the 3rd floor, read me poetry in her language every afternoon." She paused, remembering faces she had not seen in years. To them, I wasn't the cleaning lady's daughter. I was simply Zara, a curious child who asked many questions. They taught me their languages because it was the only thing they had to give, and I learned because it was the only way I knew to thank them for their love. The silence that followed was different from the previous one. It was not tension or expectation. It was respect. "And English?" the journalist asked softly. "The internet. Videos, movies, songs. My mother couldn't afford private lessons, but knowledge is there for anyone who wants to seek it. The conference ended past noon. As Zara was escorted out of the building, her phone began to vibrate uncontrollably. Messages from unknown numbers, social media notifications, missed calls from international prefixes, but only one message caught her attention. It was from Dr. Elena Reyes at the hospital. "Your mother woke up. She's asking for you. Come when you can." Zara ran. In the hospital room, Serena was sitting up in bed, her eyes fixed on a small television that was broadcasting the news. The press conference was the main topic on every channel. "My child," she whispered when Zara entered. "My little warrior." Zara threw herself into her arms, crying for the first time in days. All the contained emotions, all the fear, all the pressure came out in sobs that shook her entire body. "You did it." Serena stroked her hair. "You faced a monster, and the whole world saw it." "I was so scared, Mama, so scared of failing, of it being all for nothing." "But you didn't fail. You have never failed. Zara, everything you have done with your heart, and the heart never lies." Dr. Elena Reyes entered at that moment with a smile that lit up her face. "I have good news. The infection is responding to treatment. If all goes well, your mother could leave the hospital in a few days." "Really?" Zara felt a wave of relief. "Really, although she will need absolute rest for several weeks. No stress, no worries." Serena laughed softly. "That will be difficult with a daughter who has just declared war on one of the most powerful men in the country." The doctor looked at them curiously. "I saw the press conference. The whole hospital saw it. The nurses are talking about organizing a collection for you." "We don't need charity," Serena began to say, but Zara interrupted her. "We need justice, doctor, and today we took the first step to get it." The following hours were a whirlwind of calls and visits. Priya arrived first with news that changed everything. The Attorney General announced a formal investigation against Hargrove Holdings. They are reviewing all the documents we presented, and there's more. Several former employees who had remained silent out of fear now want to testify. Then came Elias, visibly exhausted but with renewed energy. Damian has disappeared. He's not at his house. He's not at the office. He's not at any of his usual places. His lawyers say he's evaluating legal options, but the truth is he's running. Running? Zara frowned. Where to? He has properties in several countries, bank accounts in tax havens. He could be anywhere. And the hearing, the one with the Ministry of Youth and Social Development. Elias smiled for the first time in days. Cancelled. The official Damian had bribed, Mr. Jamal Kane, was arrested this morning. He confessed everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. The anonymous report against your family has been officially dismissed. Zara felt her knees give way. Serena held her as both cried tears of relief. It means they're not going to separate me from my mama. It means exactly that. No one is going to separate you ever. But the calm was short-lived. That night, as Zara dozed in a chair beside her mother's bed, her phone rang. It was a blocked number. She hesitated before answering. Something in her instinct told her not to, but curiosity was stronger. "Hello, Zara Bennett?" The voice on the other end was distorted, unrecognizable. "You've made a grave mistake." "Who is this?" "Someone who knows things that even Elder Hargrove doesn't know about his dear nephew." Zara felt a shiver run down her spine. "What things?" "Chief Damian Hargrove is not who everyone thinks. His cruelty has deeper roots than you imagine, roots that extend to your own family." "My family? I don't understand." "Your grandmother, the translator. Do you think it was a coincidence she died so young? Do you think it was a coincidence your mother ended up working for Hargrove's company?" Zara's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying there's a story no one has told you, a story that connects your family with the Hargrove family for decades. And if you want to know the complete truth, you need to look in the place where it all began." "What place?" "Elder Elias Hargrove's personal archives. Ask him about the year he met your grandmother. Ask him what happened at the French embassy. Ask him why your mother never knew who her father was." The line disconnected. Zara stood paralyzed, the phone still glued to her ear. The mysterious voice's words bounced in her mind like echoes in a dark cavern. Her grandmother, the French embassy, her mother's father. What did it all mean? She looked at Serena, who slept soundly thanks to the medication. Her mother had never spoken of her father. Zara had always assumed it was a painful subject, something she should not ask about. But now the questions multiplied like a virus in her mind. Who was her mother's father? What connection did her grandmother have to the Hargrove family? And why did someone want her to know all this? The next morning, Zara confronted Elias. She found him in his office reviewing legal documents related to the investigation against his nephew. When she entered, she immediately noticed that something had changed in his expression. "Last night, I received a call," she said without preamble. "Someone told me to ask you about my grandmother, about the French embassy, about my mother's father." The color drained from Elias's face. "Who called you?" "I don't know." The voice was distorted, but they knew things. Things that made me realize there's a story no one has told me. Elias sank into his chair as if he had suddenly doubled in weight. "I hoped you would never have to know this," he murmured. "I hoped I could help you without the truth coming to light." "What truth?" The old man closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, there were tears in them. "Your grandmother, Elara Abiodun, was the most extraordinary woman I ever knew. She worked as a translator at the French embassy when I met her. She had the same light in her eyes as you, the same passion for languages, the same inner fire." He paused as if each word cost him physical effort. "We fell in love. It was a forbidden, impossible love. I was married, had responsibilities, a reputation to maintain, but Elara was like a magnet. I couldn't stay away from her, even though I knew I should. A child was born from that relationship, a child Elara raised alone because I was too cowardly to acknowledge her publicly." "My mother," Zara whispered. "My mother is your daughter." Elias nodded, unable to look her in the eyes. "Serena is my daughter, which means you, Zara, are my granddaughter." Zara's world collapsed and rebuilt itself in an instant. Everything she thought she knew about her family, about her history, about herself, was a lie. "Does my mother know?" "No. Elara never told her. She made me promise I would keep the secret until my death. But now Damian is your mother's cousin." Zara connected the dots with growing horror. "Which means Damian is my mother's cousin, which means the man who tried to destroy us is my family." "Yes." Elias finally looked at her. "Damian knows nothing of this. No one knew except me and your grandmother. But someone else discovered the truth. Someone who wants to use it." "Use it for what?" "I don't know, but we have to find out before it's too late." Zara sank into a chair, her mind processing information that changed everything. She was Elder Elias Hargrove's granddaughter, Chief Damian Hargrove's cousin, heir to a legacy she never knew existed, and someone somewhere knew all these secrets and was using them as pieces in a game she was just beginning to understand. "What do we do now?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Now," Elias stood up with renewed determination, "we find out who is behind this and discover what they really want." But before they could take the first step, Elias's phone rang. It was Priya, and her voice sounded terrified. "Elder Hargrove, turn on the news now." Elias turned on the television. The image that appeared made both of them hold their breath. Chief Damian Hargrove was on screen, standing in front of a microphone with a chilling smile, and the words he uttered changed everything. "I have information that will destroy Elder Elias Hargrove and reveal that the little heroine Zara Bennett is part of a family conspiracy to steal my company, and I have the proof to demonstrate it." Chief Damian Hargrove's words resonated on the screen like a death sentence. Zara felt the air leave her lungs. Elias visibly paled, his hands trembling as he watched his nephew on the screen. "In the next hours," Hargrove continued with that chilling smile, "I will reveal documents that prove Elias Hargrove has been planning for decades to regain control of my company, and his secret weapon is a child who happens to be his illegitimate granddaughter." The word hit Zara like a punch. Illegitimate, as if her existence were a mistake, as if her life were a saying that had to be erased. "This supposed David against Goliath story," Hargrove spat the words, "is actually a family conspiracy to destroy me, and I have someone who can confirm everything." The camera moved, revealing a person sitting next to Hargrove, attorney Nolan Kane, the lawyer who had been his right-hand man, the man who had executed every cruel order, every merciless revenge. Now he was there with a nervous but determined expression. Attorney Kane addressed him. "Tell the world what you know." Nolan cleared his throat. "For years, I worked alongside Elder Hargrove before he retired. I witnessed private conversations where he expressed his intention to regain the company when the time was right. He mentioned a secret daughter he would one day use as a legitimate heir." Zara looked at Elias with horror. "Is that true?" "No." Elias vehemently denied. Nolan is lying. He never worked with me directly. He was hired by Damian years after my retirement. Then why is he saying these things? Because Damian has him trapped. Nolan knows too much about my nephew's real crimes. If he doesn't cooperate, he'll go to prison along with him. On the screen, Hargrove continued his performance. Tomorrow, at the same place where this child put on her media circus, I will present all the evidence. The world will see who the Hargroves and Bennetts truly are, a family of liars and manipulators. The broadcast ended. The silence in Elias's office was crushing. We have to do something. Zara broke the silence. We can't let him lie about us. What he says has no legal basis. Elias tried to keep calm, but his voice trembled. There are no documents to prove a conspiracy because no conspiracy exists, but the public damage is already done. Priya intervened. The people who supported you now have doubts. Social media is exploding with theories. Elias's phone rang. It was Elena Vargas. Elder Hargrove, I just saw the broadcast. We need to talk now. Half an hour later, the investors were gathered again in the office. Their expressions mixed concern and determination. Hargrove's accusation is ridiculous. Omar Khalil spoke first. Anyone who saw the original video knows that child was not acting. Her talent is genuine. But Hargrove has something, Elena pointed out with pragmatism. He wouldn't make such a statement without having some kind of evidence, even if fabricated. Fabricated? Zara asked. False documents, Yuki Sato explained. In the corporate world, it's more common than you imagine. Papers that look legitimate are created, but they are completely invented. And how do we prove they are false? That's the problem, Elena said. Proving something is false is much harder than proving something is true. Zara's phone vibrated, a message from a blocked number. If you want the truth about attorney Nolan Kane, look for him in the closed cases archive of the Nigerian Bar Association, case number 2847. Not everything is what it seems. Zara showed the message to the others. It's the same person who called me last night. The one who knows about my grandmother and my family. Someone is helping us from the shadows. Elias frowned. But who? It doesn't matter who it is right now. Priya was already at her computer. What matters is if the information is real. She typed quickly. Accessing databases Zara didn't know existed. Here it is. Priya turned the screen. Case 2847 of the Nigerian Bar Association. Nolan Kane was investigated years ago for document falsification in a civil case. The investigation was closed for lack of evidence, but the file mentioned something interesting. What? Everyone asked in unison. The original complainant was threatened and withdrew the charges. Guess who legally represented the accused party? Hargrove Holdings. Exactly, Elias murmured. Nolan has been falsifying documents for Hargrove for years, and now he's doing the same against us. Night fell over the city. While the group worked frantically, Zara knew she had to return to the hospital with her mother. But she also knew that if they did not stop Hargrove now, everything they had achieved would crumble. I need to go see my mama, she finally said. She doesn't know anything about what's happening. Go. Elias nodded. We will continue working. Tomorrow we will need all our strength. Elder Hargrove. Zara stopped at the door. My mother doesn't know that you are her father. When are you going to tell her? The old man lowered his gaze. When all this is over, I don't want her to have more worries now. She deserves to know the truth. I know, and I will tell her. I promise you. At the hospital, Serena was awake watching the news on the small television. I saw Hargrove's conference, she said when Zara entered. That man has no limits. Mama, there's something I need to tell you. Zara sat beside her mother and told her everything about Elias, about Ilara, about the secret that had remained hidden for decades. With each word, Serena's face went through different emotions. Surprise, disbelief, pain, confusion. Elder Elias Hargrove is my father. Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Mama, you are his daughter, and I am his granddaughter. And Hargrove is your cousin, and mine too. Serena closed her eyes. Tears began to fall silently down her cheeks. My mother never told me anything, she murmured. Whenever I asked about my father, she changed the subject. She said some secrets were better left unknown. Are you angry? Serena opened her eyes and looked at her daughter. I don't know how I feel. All my life, I thought I was nobody's daughter, that my father just didn't want me. And now I discover he's one of the richest men in the country who watched us for years without saying anything. He was scared, Mama. Scared of ruining Grandma's memory, scared of complicating your life. And that justifies it? Decades of silence while we struggled to survive. Zara had no answer. She understood her mother's rage. She also understood Elias's reasons. But understanding did not mean accepting. I want to see him, Serena said suddenly. Now, before dawn, before that monster Hargrove tries to destroy what little we have left. Elias arrived at the hospital an hour later. Zara waited outside the room, giving them privacy. Through the closed door, she could hear voices, first calm, then more intense, then sobs. The conversation lasted almost 2 hours. When Elias finally came out, his eyes were red from crying. He seemed to have aged years in one night. How is she? Zara asked. Angry, hurt, confused. Elias leaned against the wall. She has every right to feel that way. I stole her chance to know her father. I stole a life that could have been different. Did she forgive you? I don't know. She said she needs time, but she also said something that gave me hope. What? She said that despite everything, she's proud of you, of the woman you've become, and that if I had anything to do with that, even indirectly, then perhaps there's something good amidst so much error. Zara felt tears forming in her eyes. She entered the room and found her mother looking out the window. Mama. Serena turned. Her face showed the traces of tears. But there was something else. Something Zara recognized because she had seen it in the mirror many times. Determination. We're going to end this, Serena said with a firm voice. That man, Hargrove, is my cousin, my own blood. And he has dedicated his life to destroying innocent people, including us. Mama, you're sick. You need to rest. I'll rest when this is over. Right now, my place is with you. The doctors won't let you out. Then we'll leave without them seeing us. Serena smiled for the first time in days. Do you think only you inherited your grandmother's fire? Dawn found an improbable group gathered in Elias's office. Serena, pale but determined, sat in an armchair with a blanket over her shoulders. Zara beside her, holding her hand. Elias in front of them with an expression of astonishment at seeing the daughter he never knew facing the battle alongside him. The investors occupied the rest of the room, each contributing resources and contacts. And in the center of the table, a screen displayed the discovery that would change everything. We found the origin of the mysterious call, Priya announced. You won't believe who it is. The image on the screen showed a face they all recognized. It was a middle-aged woman with strangely familiar features. Her name is Leora Hargrove, Priya explained. She's Chief Damian Hargrove's younger sister, and apparently she's been collecting evidence against her own brother for years. Hargrove has a sister. Zara could not believe it. A sister he practically erased from existence. Elias murmured, recognizing the face. Leora. The last time I saw her, she was just a teenager. Damian sent her away when he took control of the company. He said it was for her own good, but the truth is, she was always my parents' favorite. He couldn't stand it. And now she's helping us, apparently. So, yes. Priya could contact her? I already have. She's on her way. Leora arrived 30 minutes before Hargrove's press conference. When she entered the office, Zara immediately noticed the family resemblance. The same eyes as Elias, the same upright posture, but where Hargrove radiated cruelty, Leora exuded a deep sadness mixed with resolution. Uncle Elias was the first thing she said. It's been a long time, too long. Elias approached and hugged her. Why did you never contact me? Because Damian threatened me, she said. He said if I ever tried to get close to the family, he would destroy everything I loved. Leora separated from the embrace. But I have nothing left to lose, and when I saw what he did to this child, I knew it was time to act. She looked at Zara with a mix of admiration and pain. You are brave, braver than any of us. You faced my brother when everyone else looked the other way. What do you have for us? Zara was direct. Hargrove's conference begins soon. Leora pulled a hard drive from her bag. Years of evidence, recordings, documents, testimonies, everything you need to prove that the documents my brother will present today are false, and much more. How did you get all this? Because Damian never considered me a threat. I was just his weak sister, the one who had been banished and forgotten. It never occurred to him that I was watching, waiting, collecting every mistake he made. Leora connected the drive to the computer. Folders appeared on the screen. Here is proof that attorney Nolan Kane's documents were created recently. The digital metadata doesn't lie. And here, she opened another folder, are the original recordings of the meetings where Damian ordered every act of revenge against his enemies, including the campaign against Serena Bennett. Serena leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the screen. You have recordings of him ordering my destruction. I have recordings of everything. My brother never learned to be careful because he never believed anyone would dare to challenge him. Leora looked at everyone present. Damian took my family, my inheritance, my life. Today, I will finally get something back of what I lost. What thing? Zara asked. My dignity and the justice that so many deserve. The conference hall was packed. Journalists from all over the world occupied every available seat. Television cameras broadcast live to many countries. Outside, thousands of people had gathered, many with signs that read, "Justice for Zara," and "The world is watching." Chief Damian Hargrove entered first, flanked by attorney Nolan Kane and an army of lawyers. His arrogant smile radiated the confidence of one who believes he has won before the battle even begins. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began from the podium, "today I will reveal the truth about the most elaborate conspiracy this city has witnessed." He held up a thick folder. "Here I have documents that prove Elder Elias Hargrove planned for decades to regain my company using a child as a media weapon, a child who happens to be his illegitimate granddaughter, the product of a secret relationship with an employee." Murmurs filled the room. Attorney Nolan Kane, my legal advisor, witnessed these conspiracies and is willing to testify under oath. Nolan approached the microphone, but before he could speak, the doors of the hall swung open. Zara entered first. Behind her, Serena walked with a firm step despite her weakness. Elias followed her alongside the international investors and closing the group, a woman who made Hargrove's face lose all color. "Leora Hargrove." Hargrove's voice trembled for the first time. "What are you doing here?" "I came to tell the truth, brother. The truth you've tried to bury for years." Leora walked to the podium with the same authority her brother had occupied moments before. "My name is Leora Hargrove. I am Chief Damian Hargrove's younger sister, and for more than 2 decades, I have documented every crime, every lie, every life my brother has destroyed." She connected the hard drive to the main screen of the hall. "These documents my brother just showed were created recently. The digital metadata confirms it. They are false. Fabricated by attorney Nolan Kane, who has a documented history of falsification. The screen showed the evidence. Creation dates, digital records, irrefutable proof." "But that's not all," Leora continued. "Here are the real recordings, the conversations where Damian ordered the destruction of Serena Bennett simply because her daughter humiliated him by demonstrating a talent he could never buy." Hargrove's voice filled the hall, clear and unmistakable. "I want that woman never to work anywhere in this city, and I want the child to end up in the system to learn what it means to defy me." The journalists exploded with questions. Camera flashes lit up the room like lightning. Hargrove recoiled, his face transforming from arrogance to panic. "That's manipulated," he shouted. "It's a conspiracy. The only conspiracy here is yours." Elias stepped forward. "For years, I watched you destroy lives while I kept silent. That silence ends today." He looked at Serena, who nodded slightly. "Serena Bennett is my daughter. Zara Bennett is my granddaughter, and yes, for decades I kept that secret out of cowardice, but I never ever conspired to regain a company. All I wanted was to protect my family from a monster I myself helped to create." Attorney Nolan Kane, seeing the ship sinking, made a desperate decision. "I can explain everything." He approached the microphone. "Hargrove forced me to lie. He threatened to destroy me if I didn't cooperate. I have proof of his other crimes, crimes no one knows about yet." "Shut up." Hargrove lunged at his former ally, but security guards restrained him. At that moment, federal agents entered the hall. "Chief Damian Hargrove," the lead agent spoke in a clear voice. "You are under arrest for corporate fraud, bribery of public officials, document falsification, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent." As he was being handcuffed, Hargrove looked at Zara with pure hatred. "This is not over," he hissed. "I have resources, I have connections, I will be back." Zara looked at him without fear. "No, Chief Hargrove, you won't be back because now the world knows who you truly are and the world doesn't forget." The following months were a period of rebuilding. Hargrove Holdings was exhaustively investigated. Decades of corruption, bribery, and destruction of lives were uncovered. Damian was sentenced to years in prison. Attorney Nolan Kane, in exchange for his cooperation, received a reduced sentence but lost his law license forever. Hargrove's confiscated assets were used to compensate all victims of his abuses. Dozens of families who had been destroyed like Zara's finally received justice. And the $1 million Hargrove had promised as a cruel joke was ordered by the court as official compensation for Zara Bennett. "I don't want his money," Zara had said when she was informed. "Then use it for something good," Elias suggested, and she did. The Alara Abiodun Foundation opened its doors months after the trial. Named in honor of her grandmother, the foundation was dedicated to identifying and supporting talented young people without resources, children with extraordinary abilities, but no opportunities, exactly as Zara had been. Elena Vargas, Omar Khalil, and Yuki Sato became principal sponsors. Leora Hargrove donated her share of the family inheritance to fund educational scholarships, and Elias finally reconciled with his daughter. Serena dedicated his last years to working alongside his granddaughter. Serena recovered completely from her illness. The best doctors paid with funds they could finally afford treated her until her health was stronger than ever. She now worked as a coordinator for the foundation, helping other mothers who faced the same struggles she had survived. "Mama," Zara asked her one afternoon as they reviewed scholarship applications, "have you forgiven Elder Hargrove?" Serena smiled softly. "Forgiveness isn't a moment, child. It's a process. But every day I see him trying to compensate for his mistakes. Every day I see him loving you as the grandfather he always should have been. That process moves a little further, and someday you'll call him Grandpa. Perhaps when I'm ready, when he's ready, when both of us have healed enough." On Zara's birthday, a letter arrived from prison. It was from Damian Hargrove. "I don't expect your forgiveness," he wrote in a trembling hand. "I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that every day in this place, I think of the moment you stood before me, without fear, when you demonstrated that true power is not in money or titles, but in dignity. A dignity I lost a long time ago, if I ever had it. Your grandmother Ilara was extraordinary. Now I understand why my uncle loved her so much, and I understand why you are who you are. I hope that someday when you are an adult, you can look back and see that even monsters can learn, even if it's too late." Zara read the letter 3 times before putting it away. She did not respond. It was not necessary. Some wounds need time. Some answers do not exist, and some people simply must live with the consequences of their decisions. Years later, Zara Bennett became the youngest translator to work for the United Nations. Her story was told in documentaries, books, and films, but she always insisted that it was not her story that was important. "It's my mother's story," she would say in every interview, "who worked her whole life to give me opportunities. It's my grandmother Ilara's story, who bequeathed me the love of languages without even knowing me. It's the story of all the invisible people who have extraordinary talents, but never get the chance to show it." In her office on her desk, she kept a framed photo. It was from that day in the Hargrove Holdings boardroom. A young girl with a school bag surrounded by executives who mocked her. Below the photo, a plaque with words her mother had told her that night in the hospital. Words can change the world. And indeed they had, because a child had shown that talent needs no certificates, that dignity is priceless, and that sometimes the biggest giants can be brought down by the smallest voices. All it takes is the courage to speak and someone willing to listen.